If you're already successful and you're already living your dream and you've crushed every single goal, then you don't have to watch this video. You don't have to take anything to heart. You're solid. There's nothing to do on your end. You're living your dream. If you don't want to change anything you've been doing in your life, no need to. This video is for the people who watch my stories, know me in life, hang out with us, go somewhere, or who just follow me that say, I want more. I wish I had that. I'm willing to make the sacrifice. I'm willing to be uncomfortable. But are you? Are you really willing to be uncomfortable? First off, cheers. I hope everyone's having an amazing Monday. It's decaf, but placebo effect, we're gonna pretend like it's loaded with caffeine. I wanna talk about small-minded thinking, small-minded individuals, whatever if you will. I made a story on Instagram. I'm taking a poll right now. We'll have the results of that poll later. But as I'm seeing the responses that are coming in from it, and as I'm starting to piece together conversations I've had with people while out and about, it has showed me that a lot of people still think small when they think of their dreams, their goals, their passions. And a lot of that has to do too with the city. So as you guys know, I live in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Well, I live outside the city of Chattanooga, Tennessee. But as you travel to these other cities, when you're in Miami, New York, LA, Chicago, all these places, you see a different style of living. You also see a different mindset. People are not afraid to push the envelope. People aren't afraid to put their dreams out there a little bit. So over the last couple of weeks, people have been tagging me in posts on Facebook. People have been, people will see me out with the kids. I'm driving one of the supercars. They'll take a picture of it, post it. Someone will tag me, be like, yo, that's Andy Peters, and all this stuff. And as I'm seeing all these things come about, people are like, I just don't understand it. How can someone have that car? How can someone live this way? How can someone buy that whiskey? How can someone travel? How can someone do all this crazy stuff? And it's like, because you can't have the small-minded mentality. You've got to think on a larger scale. So like this morning I made the story and I said, if money wasn't an issue, what would you budget yourself per month to do whatever you wanted to do? And I'm seeing responses like 5,000, 7,500, 10,000, 5,000, 12,000. And it's like, wow. Like I'm telling you that money is not an object as far as a number. You can pick whatever you want to budget. I was hoping to see people say, some 25, some 50,000s, some people drop 100,000 per month, because those are the goals that's possible when you put yourself out there. Small-minded thinking and being around individuals like that suppress you. So it's like me. If I rewind back years ago and I started thinking about my life, when I would share the dreams with people, when I would share what I wanted to do with my life, Andy, that's not possible. Andy, that's too much money. Andy, there's no way that's going to work out. But why? Just because it's not possible for you, why wouldn't it be possible for me? I've learned that people who become disciplined in their actions, their goals, what they set for their goals, and then the people who become uncomfortable with that are typically the ones that succeed. So I want to use Hannah, for example. As you guys know, Hannah, my wife, she turns 40 this year. When I post a picture, when she posts a picture, inbox goes nuts. Her inbox goes nuts, I guess, for different reasons. That's all the guys trying to get in her DMs. But I would do anything to look like your wife. Your wife looks amazing to be almost 40 years old with 3 kids. Like, how does she do it? If you just tell me how she does it, I will do it. I will do whatever it takes. No, you won't. I guarantee you won't. Because there's going to be days you wake up where you're not motivated. Most people aren't disciplined enough to wake up in the morning, run 45 minutes to an hour, and then in the evening, hit the gym, work out, push the body for 45 minutes to an hour, like really push it, to then come home and get 15 to 20 minutes of cardio and or stretching or yoga in the evening, all while sacrificing the cravings. Being disciplined to eating this particular food set. Being disciplined to not overindulge in all the candies and the sweets and the wines and all that stuff. It takes discipline for years and sacrifices for years to keep that up. That's why Hannah has kept the same look from the time that she was in her 20s, obviously until where she's at now. Minus her boobs. They're fake, so I'll put that out there. But outside of that, the discipline that she has and the sacrifices that she made is what's kept her where she's at. No, throughout the day, there's curveballs that get thrown her way. She's a teacher for homeschooling the kids. She goes to the farm. She helps me with the businesses. She does things around the house with me. Like, she has a full schedule next to me of things that we do on a daily basis. There's days where she is not motivated. There's days where we stay up till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, wake up at 8, 9 o'clock. The motivation is gone, but she's still disciplined enough to do it. You can take that same concept and mentality and apply it to people who want to change their financial situation. Okay? For example, I'll post a picture of us in a supercar. I'll post a picture of us on a vacation or a random Airbnb hopping, whatever we're doing, and then my inbox goes nuts. Andy, tell me the secret. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll make whatever sacrifices I can do. I will put in the work if you just tell me what to do. No, you won't. 9 times out of 10, you won't do it because it's going to make you extremely uncomfortable. It's going to make you hate your life. It's going to put things that you have to sacrifice that you don't want to. Prime example, conversation I had with a good friend of mine who I've known for about 15 plus years just last week. Me and him were sitting there talking. He goes, Andy, if you would tell me the secret that I need to do, what I need to do to really step my life up this year, I want to change things. It's like, let's go grab coffee. All right, fast forward, we go get coffee. We're sitting there. He's like, I want to become a better dad. I want to spend more time with my kids. I want to give my wife the life that she deserves. And I want us just to be able to, as a family, sit back and relax a little bit. I was like, cool, let's look at your day. So he works about 10, 12 hours a day. He sleeps about 6 to 7 hours. His job is very demanding. He's on his feet. He's using his hands a lot. His body, very physical work. So when we get into talking, I was like, so let's focus on the dad part first. To me, that's the most important part. If you can become a better dad, everything else just tends to line up because that stress is out of your life. I was like, how much do you get with your kids right now a day? That ranges, Andy. I mean, there's some days I come home and they're asleep. Hold up. What time do you get off work? He was like, 4:30, 5 o'clock is kind of the average. By the time I get off work, drive to the gym, get my workout in, change clothes, head to the house. Kids are already being ready to be put to bed. Hold up. You're saying you want to become better dad, better father, whatever. But you know by going to the gym, you're missing out on the evening part of your kids. So why don't you just flip-flop that and do it in the morning? And the response, well, I mean, for my goals that I'm trying to hit right now in the gym, just working out as soon as I get up in the morning to the gym with no food on my stomach, it's not working out well for me. Oh my God. Yep, here we go. Person that's not going to want to be uncomfortable. I went, so how do you expect to spend more time with your kids during the week if you're not willing to move the gym around? And you see the wall right here. I was like, you know what? We'll come back to that. So let's talk about your finances and stuff. You're wanting to change things up in your life a little bit. You're wanting to add, a little bit more money and all this stuff. So obviously you're tapped out on time. You don't have any more time to do anything on the side. No side gigs, nothing. You've been at your job for a while. You're making decent money, but you want that money to be able to stack and multiply. So let's start looking at things that you can scale back on. So we start talking about the vehicles that him and his wife have. We start talking about, a couple of the gym memberships they have. We start talking about his addiction to shoes and clothes, as well as some of the stuff that his wife does. He said, Andy, we can't do that. We have wanted these cars. We have wanted this lifestyle for so long that if we do that, we're going backwards. Actually, you're going backwards right now by having all these things because you can't afford what you're trying to achieve. So we're trying to make changes to where you can spend more time with your kids. That's not working because you don't want to move the gym around because it's not meeting your goals. You and your wife don't want to scale back on things where you can save a little bit extra money so you can change your current situation. So you're kind of not going forwards. If anything, I would say you're going backwards. You're not even staying in a good place. We sat there and drank coffee, 2 more cups, mind you. That's how long we were there. And at the end of this, nothing had come of it. There's no sacrifices to be made. He didn't want to be uncomfortable. So now I want to tell you a little bit about my story on how I was uncomfortable. If you guys have watched any of my prior videos, any of my live streams, any of my YouTube videos, you've heard the story. Now the fun part is you can reference anything if you want. My mom's on social media. She's on Instagram. She's on Facebook. Now on Instagram, you can give her a follow if you want to. This is Mom right here. Her Instagram handle is Patti, P-A-T-T-I _Graham, G-R-A-M _ because my mom sells the grams. No, I'm just kidding. What can I say? That's creative of her, I guess, Patti Graham. So that's my mom. You can message her, she'll respond back, she won't hold nothing back, and she'll tell you exactly the sacrifices that I made, how uncomfortable I was in my life. You message Hannah. Been with Hannah for 19 years, and she'll gladly tell you everything how it is, share the story with you, and you'll be like, wow, really? Yep. Even better, you can talk to Giuseppe. Giuseppe's been living with me for almost a year now. He sees the good, the bad, he sees everything. Because when someone's living in your house, you can't hide anything. They hear the arguments, they hear the discussions, they see how you parent, they see how you are as a husband, they see everything. So there's 3 amazing people you can reach out to. There's a few more too. But the sacrifices and things that I did as far as how uncomfortable I was in the discipline was rough. I still remember being 19 years old, coming home. And there's one particular moment that sits out for me as my mom pecked on the window, scared the crap out of me as I was in my car in the driveway, completely asleep. Didn't get home until around 3:30 in the morning, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna sit in the car and relax for a little bit. Next thing I know, mom's pecking on the window. I rolled the window down, I'm like, whoa. She's like, son, I was worried about you because I saw you pull in the driveway. I didn't think anything about it until I went down, laid in bed with your dad, and woke up, and you still went in the house, and your car was just running in the driveway. I was like, Mom, I fell asleep. She's like, you have to be at work in another 2 hours. I was like, holy cow. Ran in real quick, took a quick shower, got in my car, straight to work. I was uncomfortable not getting any rest. I was uncomfortable always feeling like I was tired. I was uncomfortable with all that. And then my mom had the talk with me. She said, Andy, you've got to take a break. You're working yourself to death. Andy, you've got to just relax. And you know what I told my mom at 19? Mom, I'm this close. I'm this close to my dream. I can feel it. I can feel it. It's right there. I've got a goal. I'm working towards it. Fast forward. 29. And I was working some crazy hours. Hannah was working crazy hours with me. We were pushing 15 to 16 hour days. My mom was even alongside of me through some of that. Again, the dreaded talk from mom. Son, you've got to stop. You are working yourself to death. I see it in your eyes. I see the bags. I see how heavy they are. You have I can hear it in your voice. There's no energy. There's no more excitement. I'm like, Mom, it's right there. Like, I am this close to it. I can feel it. I can see it. I'm journaling. It's so close. I can feel it. She said, son, you said that same thing when you were 19. I have all the faith in you, but you are working yourself to death. You've got to give yourself a break. Now keep in mind, in my eyes, I was so close to it at 19. At 29, 10 years later, I'm still that close to it. I can feel it. How many people are willing to chase 10 years for something thinking it's around the corner? There's people who have dreams, goals, ambitions, whatever you want to call it, who if next month it doesn't happen, they're done. In a year, if it doesn't happen, they're done. With me, 10 years later, I was still saying, I'm almost there, I'm almost there. 32, 3 years after 29, I remember taking my mom and dad out to eat dinner. The whole family was with me. And I was like, I did it. Mom went, what? I was like, I'm finally there, Mom. Where I need to be, what I told you was so close to me, right around the corner, it's finally here. She just starts crying at the dinner table. My dad gives me a big hug. She said, I knew you could do it, son, but I hated seeing the stuff you went through. I started being uncomfortable with my life. I started making sacrifices with my life. And I started setting the discipline for my life when I was 16. And I kept telling myself, it's right there. It's right around the corner. It's so close I can taste it. And I had to keep telling myself that as I got closer and closer. Now, there were hiccups along the way that I brought on myself, that I was able to learn from. And if that's the one thing that I can tell anyone that's teenager into their 20s, you have to focus on what you're able to achieve when you're young. And the more and more I talk to teenagers and people in their 20s, I realize it's tough to get that motivation going. It's tough to get that discipline. It's tough to be uncomfortable. But Andy, your kids are only 12, 9, so you really don't know. Well, when you drive a supercar around, you meet a lot of teenagers. You meet a lot of 20-year-olds. They run up to your car and the guys are like, this is the car I want. How did you get it? What do you do for a living? Tell me the secret. And after talking to them for about 20 to 30 minutes, you start to see the soul come out of their body. Because you explain the difficulties. You explain being uncomfortable. You explain the sacrifices, and they don't want it. They want it now. They want it next month. They want it this year. But as a society, we've set them up for that. We send them to school, elementary, middle, high school, off to college, and preach. If you follow this path, when you get out of college, you're going to make all this money, and your dreams are going to become reality. So a lot of them, the responses I've got is, college is taken care of. Either got a scholarship, mom and dad's paying for it, I'm just going to go through college. When I get out of college, live my dream. Well, I wish it was that easy, but that's not how it works. If that's how it works, every single kid that walked out of college would be driving a supercar, if they wanted it, living in a really nice house, and everyone would be happy. That's not the case right now. You have people coming out of college that are still trying to navigate and figure out their life, to figure out what they want to do with their life, even at that point. So again, you still have to have those plans. You still have to have the goals. You still have to have the structure around that. And when you've got the kids that are, man, I want this car, I want this house, I want this boat, I want this. Sometimes the jobs you're coming out of that college with isn't even going to support that. And you should have seen their faces when they're like, well, man, how much money do you think I need to make to be able to afford that car? And this is when me and Lainey were in the McLaren, we were going to get some coffee. I was like, for this car, $4,000 to $4,500 a month. And that's with $70,000 down. If you go shorter term, say you cut that in half, you're looking at $8,000 to $9,000 a month. For real? I was like, yeah. And for reference, same color, same everything. Look at that, $4,500 a month. That's with 4.9% APR. So that means if you're spending roughly $50,000 to $60,000 a year on a car payment, I've always said you want your car payment to be less than 5% of what you make. So if you're making $500,000 a year, technically you still can't buy that car. If you're making $1 million a year, you could purchase that car. And you just see their soul come out of their body. They're like, whew. So for me to have this car, I have to make $1 million a year. Yeah. And if you wanted the Lamborghini, you can make $500,000 a year and kind of get away with it. Bro. And they look at their buddies. Like, man, the jobs that we were looking to get are only going to pay us like 80, 90K a year when we got out of college. God. And you see them going from so excited to see this car to now the soul has left their body. I'm like, guys, but here's the thing. You can do it. You can make $500,000. You can make $1 million. If you have goals and you set those up and you take your time, I was like, hear me out on this. Let's say you come out of college and you're making 50 to 60K a year. And while you've been in college, you've got side hustles and things going on where you're able to stack 1,000 here, 1,500 here, and you do that for 4 years. And then when you come out of college, use the money you've saved from working side gigs, whatever it is, put that, buy some land, do some real estate development. You can have a lot of success with that. And if you do that for 8, 10 years, you'll be solid. You'll be able to probably go pay cash for the car, let your investments pay for the car, and you're good to go. So you're telling me if I come out of college at like 22 to 24, I'm going to be 30 to 32 before technically I could afford that car? I was like, well, it depends. If you make $100,000 a year and you want to use 50% of what you make to buy the car, then I guess you could, but it takes time. And over time, you'll have these things. And then one of the other kid chimes in and goes, bro, I don't want to be like in my mid 30s driving a car like this. Like I want this car like in my mid 20s. So the girls will see it and I'll be cool. And Lainey's with me, so she starts laughing. And you could just see them kind of looking at her because she's over there just thinking it's funny. And I was like, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. There are people in their 20s that have these cars. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see stories that I've shared of people in their mid 20s to early 20s, even late 20s that have multiple supercars. But they've also chased a goal and dream that they had in a different route. They have a different mindset than most people. What mindset? What do they do differently? I was like, they don't have small-minded thinking. They're okay with being uncomfortable. They set discipline at an extremely high level, and they take risk. That's how they get those things. And that's a conversation that I have over and over and over again with a younger crowd. Now, let me fast forward. I do want to put this little edit in here. There's nothing wrong with following the path of elementary, middle, high, college, going on to get those degrees and having a great life. There's nothing wrong with that. I know many people who have got their degrees, become a dentist, become a doctor, become an attorney, got their master's in business administration, which work with large corporations, who are living their dream, making tons of money. Tons of money. I have dentist friends right now who are driving supercars and living their best life. So there are still those opportunities there. But I'm saying for the masses, okay, for every single student right now who is in college, who thinks that when they get out of college that the money's just going to appear on a plate, it doesn't happen that way, especially if your dreams are at a high level. I have people right now that I mentor who still don't have the life that they want. What's that mean for them? It doesn't mean that they're doing something bad. It just means there's work to be done to get them there. So where I'm going with this whole thing is if you think small, you'll continue to have small things. If you think big, you'll continue to have big things. There's a fine line in between going overboard with it and actually having realistic expectations. You have to want to put in the work. I tell people the type of mentality you have is ultimately going to put you where you need to be. Your mindset's everything, okay? If you've got a $5,000, work mentality mindset or whatever you want to call it, that's probably the max you're going to have. If you're in your mind telling you, I'm willing to sacrifice, I'm willing to just push the envelope, do what I need to do, $10,000, $15,000 is my goal, and you continue upping that every single month and you continue building upon that, guess what you're going to do? You're going to hit it. If someone would have told me 10 years ago, there's going to become a point in your life, Andy, where $15,000 to $20,000 a month is going to be easy, I'd have laughed at them because they're like, it's not easy now. I'm having to work, sacrifice, be disciplined, hustle, you name it, to get to my goals. But over time, as you continue increasing, things will happen. You start thinking about it, you're like, well, I can push the envelope a little bit. I can build this, I can do that. Now, I look back over the last year where we're Airbnb hopping. We're traveling all over the US. We're letting the kids do some really crazy things in their life. We're having fun. We're taking other friends out on vacations and trips. We're entertaining. We're having the time of our life. So as I'm seeing these results come in, and I'm seeing people say, $5,000 a month would be crazy, $10,000 a month would be crazy, $15,000 a month. It's like, you've got to think though on the level of where you want to be. Where do you ultimately see yourself? And me, I was always like, if I can make $25,000 to $30,000 a month, that's going to be great. That's going to allow me to do some cool things with my family. That's going to allow me to do some cool things with my friends. It's going to allow me to travel. It's going to just change everything. I kept pushing and pushing. And it's like a snowball. The more discipline you have, the more you're willing to sacrifice, the more you're willing to be uncomfortable, guess what happens? Things just take off. So like right now, and there we go, $1,026,000. That's not including bills. Notice it's not checked for bills. That's $85,000 a month from traveling to taking friends on vacations to entertaining to Airbnb hopping to doing some of the most crazy things I've ever done in my life. Now here's the fun part. We didn't document all this. There's a lot of dinners we didn't show on social media. There's a lot of places we didn't show on social media. Nova's got almost 7 months of footage that we never showed on social media. But Andy, if you did all these crazy things, why didn't you put that out there? Because I just wanted to enjoy it. It wasn't for the public eye. It wasn't for us to go out here and show off and do these things. It was for me to actually enjoy it. But I can tell you this right now. The 40-year-old Andy right now, if I'd have told the 30-year-old Andy that this would have been possible, even the 30-year-old Andy would have probably laughed. Because at that point in time, my goal was not set that high. It wasn't until I was around 33, 34 that I said, there's more to be had. If everyone else around me is able to do these crazy things, why can't I do it? I wouldn't have thought it was possible. So you know what I did? I got my notepad. Well, I had a notepad. This is Remarkable. Remarkable too, if you don't have one, you should get one. But I was using notepads forever. And as I'm writing these goals down, it's like, whoa, if I follow that, it's going to be that much easier. So I started thinking, okay, if I make $15,000 a month right now, to make an additional $10,000 a month, I had to make $357 a day extra. Now, to some people, that might seem crazy. But keep in mind, I'm already making $15,000 a month. I had to make an additional $357. So what did that mean for me? I had products, okay? So what products was I selling? I was selling supplements. I was selling all kinds of things online, t-shirts, you name it. All right, the average cost of the product that I was selling, for me, profit-wise, every time I'd sell a product was around $18. So I had to sell an additional 20 items a day to make 10,000 extra a month. Now that puts me at 25K a month. But Andy, 20 items is a lot. When you really think about it, 20 items is a lot. Hold up, hear me out on this. I'm working out at gyms where I know tons of people. I've got social media. I have email. But Andy, that seems crazy. No, it's not. Because here's what happens. All I gotta do really is sell 10 people something. And then those 10 people will probably tell 2 more people. And if they do that, I've not only hit my 20, I've hit my 30. But Andy, to do that every day, whew, man, that's a lot of work. I'll try it. So I'd try it. I'd get things moving. I'd have days where I'd sell 20. I'd have days where I'd sell 3 extra. I'd have days where I'd sell 30 extra. I'd have days where I sold 5 extra. And then I was like, man, I've got to hit this number. I'm going to make a product that I'm able to sell for $72 of profit. Let's see how that works out. At $72 a product, I would need to sell 5 extra of those a day. So start pushing those out. And then before you know it, everything that I'd wrote down started happening. Now my months went from 15 to 35. And then they would stay around 35, 36, and then they'd creep up. 40. As more people are buying my products, they're telling their friends about it. They're telling them how good customer service is. They're telling them how good the products are. They're actually excited about this product because not only are they supporting a family-owned business, they're seeing how much passion I'm putting into my project. So as they're telling these people, if I had 100 new customers a month, those 100 new customers a month may bring in 50 more customers the next month. And then they may bring in 100 customers. So it just kept multiplying. And before you know it, I sit back and I'm like, whoa, this is actually doing well. So if you guys don't know the story, supplement company went well, t-shirt company went well, everything went good. I took those, we opened up the cafe, started pushing it to a whole different avenue. That was a shot in the dark, went really well until COVID hit and then went backwards. But I was also involved in trading along this time. I was also involved in cryptocurrency during this time. I was also involved in the foreign exchange market during this time. So everything just kept multiplying. So I'm still involved in all these other things. And that's what I tell people, maximize your time. Don't just stick to one thing. If you work 40 hours a week, and the rest of the time you're watching TV, the rest of the time you're on social media, the rest of the time you're in the gym, working out, taking pictures, trying to figure out what, angle looks the best, yada, 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 then guess what? That is energy and time used to build your financial freedom. It's there for you. There's 24 hours in a day, 24. If you sleep at least 6 of those, that gives you 18 hours to chase your goals. If you're only using 8 to 9 hours of that, you're halfway mediocre of chasing your goals. Because there are people right now who are working 16, 18 hours a day to get to where they want to get. It's like Giuseppe. You guys see the things that he's doing. The kid has stacked his days. His days are stacked to the max, 7 days a week, and he's on par right now to have a 6-figure plus year. We're only in January. Do you know why? He's listened. He's seen, he's taken the advice, he's watched how I do things, he's watched my movement, he's seen the conversations I have with other people. And he's like, all I've got to do is take this blueprint and apply it to my life and do everything and be there. It takes the discipline, it takes the sacrifice, and also takes being uncomfortable. Have you heard the saying of, if you're in the room with 5 extremely wealthy people or successful people, you'll become the 6th one? It's always true. Just because you're in that environment doesn't mean it's just going to happen to you. It's like me and my brother, for example. Same mom and dad, same household, same grandparents, same everything. Our whole entire life, we lived together for the most part. But guess what? His life is different than mine. Why? He doesn't like sacrifices. He likes discipline. He doesn't like to take risks. He doesn't like to be uncomfortable. He likes to be comfortable where he's at. Because those things are different in his life than mine, the outcome is completely different. Now watch this. Have you ever seen the 2 people that work in the gym together? Who've been working out for a year, 2 years together. One's completely jacked. One's got a beer belly. Can't see his neck. Double chin. Just looks like a complete mess. How does that happen? They're in the same environment every day together. The gym, right? But you see, it's more than just the gym. It's what happens outside the gym. It's one has discipline in his eating. Makes the sacrifice not to indulge in all the crazy drinks and sweets and all this stuff. Also, who likes to be uncomfortable with sometimes how he feels. The other one is comfortable, loves stuff in his face, love to do these things, but it's different results. So the same things just happen. Just because you're at a dinner table with 5 successful people don't mean you're going to be the 6th one. Just because you play golf with the successful people doesn't mean you're going to be successful. There's other things you have to do throughout the day to get to that level. Just because you're in that environment doesn't mean something's going to happen to you. Now again, there's things that can happen all the time. Trust me. I mean, you can be born into wealth. You can be born into all these things. I know that's there, but it's not always there. Now, I also know there's scenarios that can happen. You can be born with different types of diseases. You can be born into a world where there's no parents, there's no family, you're in foster home, bouncing from house to house with no structure. And those people have the best come-up story of anyone I've ever heard. So when I do these things, people are like, Andy, it's just not always that easy. You make it seem so easy, but that's not the case for these people. There's always exceptions to the rule. Always. One that I really want to touch on is single parents. If you are a single parent, my hat's off to you. Kudos, high five, whatever it is, you deserve it. Because I've seen it firsthand from some of our friends who have been single parents, who work multiple jobs. They're amazing parent to their kid. Like, they build that life. For me, I know how tough it is being a parent, having another parent with me, and doing it with 2 of us. So with one, my hat's off to you. I don't have a hat on, but you know what I mean, because it's a lot of work. And again, I can't say enough about that, because anytime I do these videos, I'll be hit with, Andy, I'm a single parent. How am I supposed to work more, do more for my kid when I don't have someone else to watch my kid? And it's like, I don't have the words for you. I don't know how that's going to work because I've not been in that scenario. The only thing I can answer to is my life, what I've been through, what's worked for me, and then I try to give people some shortcuts along the way. So for you all out there killing it, when life's throwing you curveballs, continue killing it. Lastly, a question I get asked a lot. Andy, what keeps you so motivated to be the dad, the father, the husband, the friend, and just pull all these people in so tight that you want to get the most out of every single day? I've been surrounded by death. I watched my grandmother die. I watched my aunt die. I was young when I lost my grandfather on my dad's side. I was in the hospital when the doctors told him that he had weeks left to live. I've carried several of my best friends' caskets to their grave, from overdoses to natural death to car accidents. Me and Hannah, we've been out to dinner eating with friends. Next morning, get a text message telling us that her husband died in the middle of the night and never woke up. Now the kids are without a dad. We've been at pool parties, hung out at events to get home, to say, hey, pray for us. Our son just drowned. I've been with husbands when they've lost their wife to cancer. I've been with kids when they've lost both their parents. I've been with both parents when they've lost their kids. When you have been around death so much, you soon realize we don't have tomorrow. We don't have next week. We don't have next month. I held like a dad group a few months ago, hosted a live Zoom, invited a few dads to it, where it was kind of open mic. I let everyone talk. And that was the one thing that probably stood out to me the most, was how many dads would say, well, I've got to put that off with my kids for at least a month or so. I'm so busy right now with my career, trying to get things up and running. I don't have the time for that. Or, Andy, I've got to just push stuff off for a week. I mean, I just need like 1 week to focus. You may not have that week. You may not have that month. You may not have tomorrow. So as we're building these goals and these dreams and all the things we're doing, sometimes once you're at a certain point of your life, you have to stop and look at what's important at this moment. It's like me. I started my plan and planning when I was 16 years old. Not everyone starts planning when they're 16 for their future. Not everyone even starts planning in their 20s. I did it because I was blessed to have a grandfather and a dad who said, if you want something in your 30s and 40s, the earlier you work on it, the faster it happens. So I didn't want to delay anything. I started working right away, writing down a plan, writing my goals and dreams down, and I started chasing them right away. But Andy, what would you do today? If you didn't have the things that you'd worked for prior and you were a dad, what would you do? I would find a way to spend as much time with my kids, no matter the sacrifice. If that meant I'm not going to the gym because I get to spend 2 or 3 more hours with my kids, I'm doing it. But Andy, you've heard the talk, like if you want to live longer with your kids, you need to be in the gym because it'll promote health. Well, there's different ways. If you're promoting health, you can eat better and you can go outside and play with your kids. If you want to live longer, you and your family can go on a 15 to 30 minute walk every single day, cut out the fried foods, cut out all the junk. You'll probably live a pretty good life. There's little things that you can change in your life that will allow you to have more time with your family, that will allow you to soak up that time. Because to me, that's the most important time I have. My kids are 12, 9, 7. What happens is sometimes we're stingy with our time. We're teenagers, we'll focus on that in our late 20s, early 30s. We get in our 20s, we're like, we still got 10, 15 more years before we have to figure life out. We get in our 30s and we're like, oh boy, we're in trouble. And then boom, 40s. And you're like, oh wow, what do I need to do with my life? Or, oh wow, where did this time go? What did I do? And I talk to other parents and they're like, well, Andy, kids have to be kids. Teenagers have to be teenagers. 20-year-olds have to be 20. They do. But the life they can have in their 30s and 40s when they start young changes everything. Imagine starting when you're 16, hustling, grinding, stacking, investing. By the time you're 36, you should be done. You have 20 years under your belt of making money, investing, sacrificing, being uncomfortable, and being disciplined. That puts you mid-30s And you should be able to sit back and relax a little bit. And if anything, everything you own is at least paid for. Now life's on cruise control. I want to say thank you. I know subjects can kind of go all over the place. I know we kind of try to tie things together. It's just how my mind operates, how my mind thinks. Sometimes it can be a cluster. Sometimes it makes sense. I'll be doing a follow-up to my Instagram stories about where I was asking people about their spending and their goals and all this stuff, because I think it's going to be a cool project to push out there and talk about. And lastly, think big. We all have something inside of us bigger than what we are. We all have a passion for something that can take us to the next level. Sometimes we're smarter than what we think. I know people who have had goals that are this big, that have turned them into goals that won't even fit on the screen, and who have crushed every single one of them. Just don't be that person that thinks with a small mind, thinking that it can only happen to other people. Because I always go back to the same thing. Remember, there was once a kid who said, I'm going to build cars that drive themselves. We're here. There was once a kid that said, I want to build rocket ships to send outer space. He did it. There was once a guy who was working in a garage saying, I'm going to have the largest company in the whole United States of America that just ships products everywhere. He did it. One thing that you start to find these people had in common, they took the risk, they were disciplined, and they were uncomfortable with some of the stuff that they had to do. If you put yourself in those situations, you'll push through. I can promise you. Sometimes we talk ourselves out of pursuing these things because we say, this is the hand that life dealt us. This is where I'm supposed to be right now. This is where, if you believe in God, this is where God wants me to be right now. Again, you can change everything. If you can envision it, you can do it. The problem is that I've seen, people envision it, people dream about it, and they hate being uncomfortable. They hate making those sacrifices. People message me every day. They say, Andy, my life's not where I want it to be. I could have so much more. I just don't know what to do. I give them the plan. We talk about it. And then I go look at their stories. And they're out partying, drinking at nighttime, living it up. They're like, thank God I'm off my work shift. Post pictures of them watching TV. Those things will keep you from getting to where you want to go. Now here's the cool thing. When you get to where you're at and where you want to go, where you're comfortable at, and everything's happening the way you want it to, you can enjoy those things now. It's like me and Hannah. We'll sit down, watch a couple of Netflix shows, we'll watch a movie. We go out and party on the weekends. We have fun. We go out sometimes during the week and party. But out of all that, it was the work prior that we put in. You too have to put in that work. That's why I said earlier in this video about my wife. I've seen mornings she's woke up with motivations out the window. She got 3 hours of sleep. She's about to kick off homeschool. We're about to do things with the kids, get things in order. And she's like, I've got to go. I've got to get my run in. Babe, I mean, really, I've got to get my run in. Because as long as I have the discipline to push through one more time, that's one more day under my belt. And then I see the sacrifices she makes for food and everything else. And what's that give her? Well, we'd say it's made her look really good. You get to wear the same clothes that you wore basically when you were in your 20s. But what it has showed her more than anything is if she puts her mind to it, she can do it. There were people when she was in her 20s that said, Hannah, you really need to enjoy your 20s because when you get into your 30s, you're not going to look like you did in your 20s. And she got into her 30s, she looked the same. And they're like, well, you better enjoy it now because once you start creeping towards 40, you're not going to look the same. You're going to look different. She got to her 40s and she looks better in her mid-30s than she did in her early 30s. Hannah, what's the secret? Discipline, sacrifices, and sometimes feeling uncomfortable. I use her as a prime example because I've seen it firsthand. I've also seen firsthand from other people what happens when they do that with wanting to be a better dad, wanting to be a better mom, wanting to increase their finances. So don't let anyone tell you it's not possible. Don't let anyone tell you it can't be done. Don't let people suppress your dreams, your goals, your ambitions, desires, anything. Because if you can think it, you can do it. So ending, I hope you're making the sacrifices to chase your dreams, goals, and passions. I hope those sacrifices are making you feel uncomfortable. And I'm hoping that you have the discipline to pull through. Because like I said, when I was 19, it was right around the corner. I could feel it. When I was 29, I still felt that way, that it was right there. 10 years later, I had not given up. At 32, it hit me like a brick that this is where it's going to take off. I'm now 40, having the time of my life. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you soon.